Hi everyone, welcome back to another Plain Talk. In these sessions, we step back from the technical discussions and discuss some soft matters. Today, we'll take a look at the minimum dot stake. This is a question that's asked several times on Discord, most of the times daily. It is my goal to represent the facts in the literature in a very simple manner that's easy to digest even for laymen who may have no technical background. Okay, so this is how I'm going to stage it. I'm going to discuss what is the problem, why did it occur, are there alternatives, what's the way forward, and just a brief look at the references. So what's the problem? The problem is that for a nominator to receive a reward when staking on-chain, like you're using Polkadot.js, you need to have a minimum amount of dot to receive a reward. And that amount at the moment is 201 dot. And the next point is that this number is actually increasing daily. It has decreased, but the general trend is an upward increase. So I'll just like to represent this by looking at this graph. This graph shows on the x-axis, I'm going to pull up my pen. One moment. There we go. On the x-axis, it has time, and the time increases as we go right. So this is present, and this is past. Okay, so we started at a very low figure, and we slowly built up to a figure of 187 dot. There was a technical change which resulted in a sharp drop from 187 all the way to 65 dot. So what that means is that if you had 187 dot, you needed to have 187 dot to receive a reward, and that dropped all the way down to 65 dot at this era here. This amount slowly, well, I would say a little more steep increase, all the way back up to present, where it's at 201. We can see that there's a little plateau forming, but over time we'll really see if that materializes into a plateau or it just goes back up. Okay, so what happened? The first thing is that I must emphasize that this is a technical issue. This is not a decision by Polkadot to reward the upper echelon of the people who have more staked. It is a technical issue that they're trying to address. So to get a little more detail into the technical issue, we need to realize that there is a process or calculation that is done at the change of each era or before the change of each era to determine which validators make it into the active set. Not only that, but which nominators will be associated with each of these validators. Now, one would recall that a nominator can have up to 16 validators. So if he nominates 16 validators, which one does he get for a particular era? Which one is he going to be assigned to as active? So all of these calculations are done before the change of the era, and it is done off the chain. It is done separately. So what has happened is that the result of this calculation needs to fit into a single block. However, with the number of nominators at present, and validators are part of the equation, I'm sure, because of this, the result is larger than one block. So I'm just going to use a quick example. You have a 1 gig stick of a 1 gig memory stick, and you want to put 2 gigs worth of photos on that 1 gig memory stick, and you have to, figure out which of your photos are going to make it onto that 1 gig. So in your mind, you will probably take the ones that are the most important. Okay, so in a similar manner, the Polkadot team decided that yes, we do need to only take a number of nominators that can fit into this block, because that's a technical limitation that we have right now. Who are these nominators going to be? Well, the priority in a nominated proof of stake consensus system is to take those with the largest stake, and it just goes hand in hand. It is not a decision of favor, but it is a decision based on the consensus model. Okay, so what is that workaround? How can we get things moving? Well, one, we need to trim, right? And I discussed that there's a selection criteria for the trim, and that's based on who has the largest bond size. So I'm just going to try to visually represent, what I discussed in the previous slide, for those who may find learning easier using a visual approach. So the Polkadot block can only support, and these are just hypotheticals, just used for description purpose only. Right? This block can only take 2,150 nominators. That's it. So if you want to take or you want to supply the nominators with the highest stake or the highest bond, you start from the top. You'll take this at the top, you'll take 150, then you'll take another 500, that's 650, and then you take 1500 and you add up to your 2150. That's it. So this group of nominators, they don't make it, right? So with that said, that establishes that this is your cutoff here. Right, I'm just going to draw it a little there. Okay, so let us explore the option that there are more nominators coming in at the bottom of the triangle. So this number changes from 6,000 to, let's say, 10,000. What does this mean? Well, the same applies. These nominators will be chosen, these nominators will be chosen, and these nominators will be chosen. There is no difference. So as people come in at the bottom, below the threshold, it doesn't increase the threshold. So let me erase a bit. Okay, so let us take an example now that instead of 500 nominators at this point, this increased to 2,000. So what will happen is that we start at the top, we take 150, we take 2,000, and that's our 2150 already. This becomes the cutoff. And all of these nominators don't make it, so this here is our new threshold. Very rough example just to show you how that number is increasing. If we have more nominators coming in top heavy or heavy with currency, it can affect those that are lower down. But if there are people coming lower down, it doesn't necessarily affect those that are higher up. Okay, so that's another scenario, and I'll just do another one. If we should change this number from 2 to 6, it would mean that we take this batch, we take this batch, we take this batch, and we establish another threshold here, and we take 4,000 here. And whatever this number is, the actual threshold would go down from here to here. So the number lowers. So if we increase the block size, the number lowers. If we add on another block for some reason, if we can, right, and we put this one as well as 2150, we can take another 2150 here. So the number also decreases. Okay, so I hope that helps you visualize what the problem is and why the number shifts up and down. Okay, so what are our options? And it pains me to suggest that if you don't have the minimum stake, and you want to receive a reward, you should try using an exchange. I've listed some of them here that you can go to. I took some from the literature and some I know from my own experience. It is a safer route in terms of if you watch my nominator guide, but you don't get to participate in all the niceties such as governance and tips and contributing in terms of selecting the good validators for the active list. So what's the way forward? So there were some items discussed in the literature, and one of them is that it was proposed that there be delegation of nomination. So those persons with less than 200 dot or so can delegate their decision or their vote to someone that's higher than a threshold. So someone with 300, someone with 200 can delegate to someone with 300 dot and say, hey, whatever you choose, I'm going to choose. I trust you. This suggestion was played down, and it was done so because it doesn't really it's a heading in the wrong direction, because the system is really geared towards that independent nomination. So this one was played down, and we can put a little X, but it was discussed. System parachain. So this lends on the sharding aspect or feature or benefit that Polkadot has, and it more or less implements another chain, a parachain, that deals with the administrative stuff, of which elections is one. Right? So that can be done, but of course there is a technical overhead, and parachains are not there just yet. So this may take some time. It is a good solution, but it may take some time. So we'll put a tick and a question mark. When? Multi-block processing is actually the one that's being discussed now, and it may be the way that the solution that can work for now and can probably incorporate into the system parachain a little later on. So we put a tick. And what this multi-block processing is, I'm going to go back a bit. It's allowing the nominators to fit in not one block, but maybe 2 or 3 or all the way down to n, as many as can be conceived. Well, I mean, I will put a question mark on the n because there's always overheads. And, really, if you can at least get another block, it will very much help the system. So multi-block processing is where the thinking is at right now. So I'm going to close, but I just want to make a few points. We need only look at Kusama, which has the same system implemented, to realize that this is an issue with nominators, because Kusama has far fewer nominators than Polkadot. And because of this, it does not suffer from a minimum Kusama threshold just yet. Right? So the same dynamics are implemented in both, but the nominators are just so large in Polkadot that this issue occurred. Now, I would also draw reference to number 2, that it is changing upwards. There is a gradual increase in terms of the minimum dot stake, but as updates are released, you may see that number dropping. So you need to keep your eye out if you want to benefit from those on-chain rewards. And just keep a look at the links for the blogs and the graph, which I will put to the bottom, and I will also put in my references. So you'll find it in the comments below and my references. Number 3. Your nomination still counts towards the validator elections. So even though you have nominated, you would not make it to the active set. You would not benefit from the rewards. But your nomination has a bearing on who gets selected for the active set. And finally, you may still participate in governance. So you may not receive a reward, but you can participate in the governance aspect of Polkadot, which is quite unique and very useful. So with that, I just give a brief look at the references. So there's a case on GitHub, and there is a blog post as well as the wiki. And the final one is the Polkaview.network. That one is where you would see that graph that I showed earlier, and you can keep track of the minimum dot required, the minimum dot stake required. It's also on the targets page, or one of the pages under the staking section of Polkadot.js. Alright, so as I wrap up, I hope that this was helpful and it brought to light what the issue is. That is a technical issue and not an issue made to oppress anyone, and that the team is aware. If you look at the literature and the links yourself, they are aware of the issue and they are working diligently to resolve it. And we saw just a few eras ago that the deployment was made and it helped, but work still needs to be done, and the team is working on it diligently. Thank you, and till the next one. Goodbye.